This week we're coming to you with another episode of Self-Care Prescriptions, and we're talking about saying no. Me, myself, and I struggle with saying no because one, I have the fear of missing out on opportunity, or I just don't want to let people down. So I always say yes, but we're coming to you this week, Dr. Robyn, to get insight from you on why is it difficult to say no and how to overcome those situations when you're faced with saying yes or saying no. So let's jump right in and let's get to it.
Yeah, so this is something I think a lot of people struggle with because I think, like you, a lot of people are really wanting to not miss out on opportunities. They feel like if they say no to a great opportunity, then it's possible that it'll never come back again. They may be afraid of hurting people's feelings, and also people just don't like to feel guilty like they're letting people down, like you said. So there's a lot of reasons why we just perpetually say yes and yes and yes. But the downside of doing that is that when we always say yes, that takes up some of our precious time, a lot of our precious time, and we find ourselves feeling overwhelmed, feeling tapped out. We're pouring from an empty cup, and then we find ourselves feeling overwhelmed and frustrated or even irritated with our own life. And sometimes when we get to that point, we have to look in the mirror and realize that we're the ones that created that schedule that we hate so much, and we created this life that we now like dread getting up in the morning for because we've continuously said yes without really thinking about the long-term ramifications of saying yes. So that's why saying no is an act of self-care that we need to talk about, that we need to practice, and we need to grow comfortable doing if we want to be able to have enough time to set aside to take care of ourselves. Some of the things that are good opportunities for us, we might have to say no to in the service of our own health and wellness. And I think it's also important to consider that sometimes when opportunities come to you, a lot of opportunities will be good opportunities and exciting opportunities. But I think if you really follow some of the tips that I'm going to share, only a few of those opportunities are really like great fits for you. And I was reading a book recently that said you want to say no to the good things so you can say yes to the great things. And so that's, I think, a mindset that you can keep with you when you're practicing this act of self-care to really help you to say no when it's hard, because I know it's not easy.
Gotcha. So good to great, that's always a good one there. Saying no to the good opportunities for the great opportunities is hard because you like, hey, I want every opportunity and I don't know when the next opportunity gonna come. So I'm very interested now with the tips.
Yeah.
So hit me with some tips on how and why I should say no.
Yeah, so the first thing I want to say before I get into the tips, I just want to say, like, how do you know when it might be time for you to say no? Like, how do you even get to that point to know? Because it all feels like you should say yes to it. So how do you start to evaluate and learn whether or not you should say no? And so I have 3 things that you want to think about. First of all, you want to think about your values. That's simply like what's important to you. What's important to you? Because a lot of times we say yes to things that may be important to somebody else's agenda or important to them, but it's not important to us. So really taking stock with yourself, what's really important to me? What am I really excited about? The second thing to think about is time commitment. First of all, like, how much time will this take me, like, on a weekly basis? But then thinking like long term, like, how long are they asking me to serve on this committee or serve on this board? Is it a 3-year term? And do I want to commit myself to something that I'm saying yes to for the next 3 years? But then I think also thinking about the time commitment, like, what is going to be the ramification for yourself? Think about the days when you're most tired and you're going to have to do this thing, or think about the ramifications for time with your family. So you're taking time away from something else that you could be doing. And is it worth taking time away, that other thing that you'll be taking time away from, so that you can add this new thing on? So that's time consideration. Then the third thing that you want to think about is priorities. This is simply just realizing that you can't do it all. Like, we would love to do all the things and be Superman and Superwoman and just, be able to be able to function on 1 hour of sleep and just go, but we just can't. So you have to prioritize. So that's simply just asking yourself, given all the things that are important to me right now and the time that I have available right now, what's going to be at the top of my list? Like what 1 or 2 things are going to be my top priorities that I'm saying that I want to say yes to. So I think you want to think about those 3 things.
Got it. I'm feeling it. So we got your value. What do you value? Is it a value to you? Is it a value to them? The time commitment. What kind of time commitment can you put to this? Whether it's a 1-hour project or a 3-year project, you know what I mean? So the time commitment, and then prioritizing. And hey, that's a self-care thing you talked about a while back, was prioritizing things. So hey, I'm feeling it. So give us more.
Yes. So now with the tips. So the first tip, when you've kind of gone through that steps of looking at your values, looking at the time commitment, seeing what this will mean for you for the long run, and then looking at your priorities, my first tip is, if you've decided after going through that you're going to need to say no, or you're thinking about maybe I want to say no, take some time to think about it. Don't say yes right away is the first tip. Don't ever say yes right away, even if it like you're so excited, because I've had those times when I'm so excited. I'm like, this is a perfect fit for me. I want to do it. Yes, but I haven't really taken the time to think about what is the time commitment and what does my coming months look like for me? What have I already committed myself to, and what am I adding on top of this? And am I gonna be really upset with myself a month from now because I'm overwhelmed and I have too much on my plate? So don't say yes right away, no matter how excited you are. Give yourself at least like an hour, or I would say even a day, to think about it. 24 hours. They will not be upset if you just say, I'm really excited about this, let me take some time and think about it. That is a very appropriate request.
Got it. So let it marinate.
Let it marinate. Yes. The second tip, when you realize that you're going to have to say no, again, not because you're not excited, not because you don't like it, not because you don't want to do it, but just because you're prioritizing self-care and you're being realistic with yourself, say no as soon as you kind of recognize that that's going to be your answer. So a lot of times we will know that we have to say no, but we get anxious about, how do I craft this email to say no? Or I don't want them to, be upset with me or be mad with me because I'm saying no. And we prolong it, we procrastinate. And that ends up kind of creating bad blood with the other person, because of course, if they've asked you to do something and you're saying no, they're going to have to find someone else to take your place, right? And so you want to be considerate of their time. And one of the ways that you can be considerate for them is to just go ahead and say no as soon as you realize that, unfortunately, no is going to have to be your answer. Or maybe fortunately, no is going to have to be your answer. But as soon as you realize it, just go ahead and say no. And that'll cut down on you feeling bad, and also just cut out the time that you are sitting there ruminating about it, thinking about it, going back and forth in your head, and it'll get it off your plate.
Got it. So don't beat around the bush and play around with it. Be upfront once you know you're not doing it.
Yeah, be upfront. Okay. Then the third one related to being upfront is being honest about your no. So this will help you to not feel guilty, because we feel guilty when we are, not telling the whole truth or lying about things, not being upfront. So just be honest about your no. If this includes like your desire, like I wish I could say yes, be honest about that. Like, I'm very excited about this opportunity, I wish I could, but just at this time point, given the things that I'm already committed to, I unfortunately cannot take this onto my plate. Please keep me in mind for the future. So it's being honest. Just be honest about that. And one of the things that I really liked that someone who I met a few weeks back at a workshop that I was doing talked about was setting up policies for yourself. And so then when you set up a rule or a policy for yourself, then you can blame it on the rule or the policy. So the one example of that is like, I only do after hours meetings twice a week. So any meeting that I have, if someone's asking you to do something that's going to require you meeting after hours, you only say, I only do work-related things after hours 2 times a week. And right now I'm at my maximum. I have 2 things that I do every week, 2 times, and it's after hours, and so I'm maxed out. And so there, you're blaming it on the rule. You're not blaming, it's not you, the rule set it up. So that's the way that you can kind of like feel maybe less guilty about saying no. It's just kind of like a mind play, but you set the boundary, and then you just blame it on the boundary. Like, unfortunately, I can't do more than 2 evening things. So it's already taken care of. So that's one of the ways that you can be honest about saying no. But the third piece is being honest.
Got it.
Then the fourth one is say what you can do instead. This is applicable for you. Sometimes you just want to say no and be done with it, and that is totally legitimate, and I give you permission and support you wholeheartedly in doing that. But if it's something that you really feel like, man, I really am letting my friend down, I really care about them, think about what can you do. So how can you support them? How can you help them? So for example, if someone's asking you to serve on a committee or help them plan a bridal shower or a baby shower, like maybe you can say, I can commit to thinking about some games, giving you game ideas for the bridal shower or the baby shower, but I can't help you plan the whole thing. This is what I can do. So kind of think about what you can do, especially if it's a relationship that you really care about, you really want to support that person and help them. Think about what you can do. It's almost like meeting them halfway. You're not giving them exactly what they asked for, but you're not giving them nothing either. So that if that's applicable, use that. And then my final 5th tip is practice saying no. The more you expose yourself and practice to saying no, the easier it gets over time. And I would say start with really small things. So we all have had experiences where, I don't know, like on the phone, if you call in some kind of service, they might say, do you want to stay on the phone after you finish talking to the customer representative for a brief survey? Practice saying no to that. Like that's just like a small thing that just gets you in the habit of saying no, so that then you can like level up and say no to things that are harder to say no to. So look for little opportunities that are maybe like low risk for you to say no to, so you can just get the practice and then go higher, take yourself higher, challenge yourself on higher levels of saying no. So I just want to recap the 5 tips. So once you kind of looked at your values, you've evaluated your time commitments and what you can do and what this is going to require of you as far as time commitment, and you looked at your priorities, my 5 tips for how to say no is, first of all, don't say yes right away. Second, when you realize it's a no, go ahead and do it. Don't beat around the bush. Don't wait. Don't procrastinate. Third, be honest about your no and why you're saying no. Fourth, say what you can do instead. If that's applicable to your situation, that's not required by any means. But if it's a close friend, close relationship, and you want to help them in some way, just not do exactly what they're asking you to do, think about what you can do instead. And then fifth, practice. Look for opportunities to say no so that you get more comfortable with it. It's not easy. And the only way that it gets easier and the way that it gets less anxiety provoking for you to say no is for you to practice.
Got it. Practice makes perfect, unless you're Allen Iverson and you don't believe in practice. But hey, we appreciate you for the 5 tips, and I appreciate it. I'm going to actually use some of these for myself, because I think, I had a fear of missing out, so I always say yes, and I don't take inventory with myself and say, hey, I only got 2 projects I can take on this week. So hey, once I met my quota, I'm done. So I'm gonna get with it, and I'm gonna send you a message, DM you or find you on social media. Drop your social media for the people that don't know about your social media.
Yes, I am at Dr. Robyn Gobin on Instagram, on Facebook. So definitely hit me up and let's let the conversation keep going. If you have comments about this or questions or any challenges that you're running up to, or even successes that you've implemented some of these tips and you realize that it worked out for you, I'd love to hear about that. So definitely follow me on social media and let's keep the conversation going.
Well, cool. We appreciate you, Dr. Robyn, and until next time.
Thank you for taking better care of you and for listening to another episode of Self-Care Prescriptions. Stay connected and tuned up with Dr. Robyn Gobin. Visit RobynGobin.com or follow us on all platforms at Dr. Robyn Gobin. Stay healthy and stay balanced with Self-Care Prescriptions.